Are America's water systems under attack? And if you live in one of the affected areas, what does that mean for you? Reports say dozens of water systems have been targeted in what appears to be a coordinated cyber campaign stretching across multiple states. The media says Iran may be responsible. The Trump administration says the real problem is that states failed to secure their critical infrastructure. So, who's right? Is this the opening move of a foreign cyber operation? Criminal hackers exploiting decades-old vulnerabilities? Or is this another case where everyone rushes to assign blame before the evidence is fully on the table? We're cutting through the headlines, the politics, and the social media speculation to focus on what we actually know, what we don't know, and perhaps the most important question of all. If someone can remotely interfere with the systems that deliver your drinking water, just how vulnerable is America's critical infrastructure? Joining us today is Grumpy Tech Bro. Y'all, my name is Regina Connell. Welcome to Wild and Wired Media, where the coffee is strong, the opinions are stronger, and today we're jumping feet first into the facts behind the latest cyber attacks.
Seven states. And in Minnesota alone, federal authorities say more than 30 water facilities were breached. U.S. officials see Iran as the likely culprit, but are still working to determine that. Madeline Rivera has the latest from our New York City newsroom on this story. Madeline.
Good morning, Brian. The FBI says these malicious cyber hackers were able to change the passwords and IP addresses of the systems that operate and monitor these water facilities. The agency says they've received reports of loss of pressure and flooding, which can allow untreated groundwater to seep into the pipes. The FBI did not mention which 7 states were affected. It comes, though, on the same week that Minnesota officials warned of a coordinated cyber attack on the water systems of 30 Minnesota communities. Water safety was not impacted, but the incident does highlight the vulnerabilities of critical infrastructure. The reports, including from the New York Times, that per U.S. and state officials, this may have been the work of Iran. The FBI is dismissing that for now, telling Fox they're not currently blaming Iran as they work to identify a culprit. President Trump, in the meantime, is pointing his finger at state officials.
Well, I think I blame it on Minnesota because they're grossly incompetent. They like to say, oh, it was Iran. Iran should be so lucky. Iran's got bigger problems than worrying about Minnesota.
Governor Tim Walz responded to the president's comments on X, saying Trump knows exactly who is responsible for this attack and knows that other states were hit too. This is what modern warfare looks like, and it further illustrates there's no plan to win a war with Iran. Just last week, the FBI and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agencies said Iran's cyber actors were continuing to target U.S. infrastructure. Water and wastewater systems were of particular concern, and for years Iran has targeted U.S. water systems, and this suspected attack fit that pattern. Minnesota officials say the incident highlights the need for more investment in cybersecurity to prevent future threats. Brian?
No doubt about it. Madeline Rivera, thank you.
All right, everybody. I forgot to put myself on stage. You guys, my name is Regina Connell, and today we have Grumpy Tech Bro. I wanted to give a little context as far as what we know about this water thing. I did read on the X platform where Alabama may be another state, but I'm not sure. We're going to examine all of that. So the perfect person to bring on today, I felt like, was Grumpy Tech Bro. So without further ado, let's bring him on up. Hey, Grumpy, what's going on?
Hey, well, if I'm going to be talking about hacking, I got to put on my black hat. So here we go. Okay, here's the black hat. So we're going to talk about hacking. Just from the presentation so far, the president's actually being more accurate, but he's not explaining it very well. All this stuff, I have a little bit of sympathy for Minnesota because it's not like the IT people in all these states are really top notch in cybersecurity, and we do need to think more about cybersecurity because all this stuff has been going on for decades. And I actually prepared a presentation for you today showing like all the different kind of layers that have been going on for forever. You know, I used to work for this company that made super secure computers, and nobody would buy them because they were more expensive, and nobody pays for security until they get hacked, and then they want it yesterday, you know, and that's just
Right.
the way it is, right? My front door right now is unlocked, you know, and you know, I'm here and I'm not worried about it, but you know, that's just reality. So.
Yeah. I mean, look, when I first heard about this and it just came across my feed on YouTube or whatever, I was watching the big screen going through stuff like what's going on in the country, what can I maybe do some content on, and then I saw this, and what struck me the most was that the state is saying it was Iran. It was Iran. What? So if this just happened, what kind of proof or evidence do you have that it could be the fact that the FBI and the way the media outlet put it, the FBI didn't mention other states, right? So they're already reporting that it's 7 states. And to me, I think that's a little irresponsible, but I liked what you said about what Trump said, that he's not completely wrong about what he's saying. So I really want to hear about these older systems and all of that, and what would make them think that this was some sort of cyber attack. So as soon as you get your stuff loaded, we'll get the share screen going. And I mean, this is the Grumpy Story Hour. We usually do it on Wednesdays, but we had to pivot around and do some things. But Grumpy, thank you for making this happen, because it's a brain bender for me for sure. So,
Okay, so put my first slide up.
oh, there it is. Okay, I didn't see it at first. There we go. I got you.
Okay, so we got water headlines, but it's the same old machinery, right? People think it's some kind of cyber warfare, but it really is there's no walls. We have soft bones. We have bad incentives, right? We're incented for making it convenient, not really secure. And, everybody has to get their work done, so they cut corners and so on. And everybody kind of knows this once they think about it, but, it's just in the news today because they're like, oh no, they're going after our water. So, and this has been going on for years and years and years. And bring up the next slide. So the story is that 7 U.S. states were hit and 30 systems in Minnesota. But what really happens is you got one of these little things that you see on screen, and it is sitting somewhere in the water system, and it is on the internet. And so anybody can go in and try to hack it. And that's the problem right there. And this is not a new problem. So let's talk about some other cases. So, there was Target a while back, and every credit card terminal. Okay, these are the kind of things I'm going to talk about today.
Okay.
So there's Target. There was this guy in San Francisco, and he was the network administrator for San Francisco, the city. There was this heartbleed bug that happened. Apple had this thing called Go-To-Fail, which was just a funny name. The underlying architecture and the code is this thing called string copy. Active Directory is the keys to the kingdom if you're running Windows. And of course, the whole internet runs on this thing called PKI, which is, I'm going to talk about a personal anecdote about how we had a rubber stamp and there was no kill switch. and then I'm going to talk about
Wait,
what the
wait,
NSA should be doing.
wait. Did you just say we have a rubber stamp with no kill switch?
Yeah, so what happened there, I'll get to in more detail, but I worked for this company and they would generate software licenses. And that was a bunch of scary crypto stuff. And when I interviewed there, or when I was onboarding there as an employee, the CEO was going, "Oh, we have PKI, blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, "Yes, yes, you have PKI. I know about PKI. Don't explain it to me. That's annoying. Did you actually implement a revocation server in case one of your certificate leaks?" And he had to admit that he hadn't. And of course, what happened is they fired some IT guy at one of their big company, one of their main customers. And that IT guy took the certificates off the system and then proceeded to mint software licenses. And there was kind of nothing the company could do about it until they in 2 days implemented like a revocation service
Wait,
to
hold
like
on.
check
I'm trying to.
it's still valid. That's like if you go and you give master keys to random people in the street, and then you're like, "Oh, I have a master key to every door in my motel. Oops, it's gone."
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So now, and also make sure you touch on the manual capabilities too, and like what it looks like, because they did make mention in the article, and I wanted you to get through your assets first because I think it'll just answer every post that I've seen, every media outlet reporting on this that I've seen, and what you're saying is making complete sense. So, talking about the maintenance, now they would never like move away from they wouldn't go full automation, would they? Like, is that what we're looking at? And with the manual systems, they talked about having to go to a manual. So, what does that even mean, and what does that look like? So, you go at your pace, and you've already got your stuff organized. So, you just tell me what to do, and I am
Okay,
all
well, let me
ears.
explain manual. Manual means a physical valve you can turn, and that means somebody has to troop over to the valve and go. "Ee, ee, ee, ee." It is very hard to hack that with a computer.
Oh, wow. Okay. That makes
So
sense.
instead, but it's tedious, right? Because then somebody has to troop over to the valve and you got to do them in the right sequence. And you need as many people as you have valves that have to be turned at the same time, and they have to have walkie-talkies and so on. So instead, what everybody has is they have these programmable controllers that that can automatically turn the valves. And that means they have a computer, and that computer is on the internet. And it's
Oh,
on the
wow.
same internet as everybody else. So somebody can go find it and then say, "Oh, here's a programmable water controller, and this looks like it's made from such and such company. And I happen to know that it has such and such security vulnerability. So now I own that programmable logic controller. And so now I own that valve. That is my valve. That valve is my bitch now."
Oh my God. Okay, so continue on. Let me put your visuals back up here. My mind is officially blown. So let me throw it back up here and continue going, Grumpy. I love the way that you make things so understandable. So keep going.
Okay, so let's see. So those are all the things I'm going to talk about. And so let's talk about Target back in 2013. So Target got owned during the Christmas season. And so people think, "Oh, Target got hacked by elite malicious software."
Mm.
No, what happened is the heating and air conditioning contractor, somebody there got one of those emails that say, "Oh, you got to change your password." And he's a heating contractor. He's not trained in cybersecurity. So he clicks on it, and then now they own that guy's network. And
Mm.
so Target said, "Oh, those heating guys are our friends, so we should let them into the Target network as well." And so then that turns, what should be a bunch of little composite offices into a giant hallway. And then that gave them access to the firmware for the credit card terminals.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so they pushed that out to like 1400. So vendor gets phished. Then they pivoted to the vendor access became access to the company. And then they went to the cash registers. And then 40 million credit cards left the building, and 70 million customers had their personal information was lost. This was like a big deal. And the way that this happened is the FBI is on the dark web, and all those credit cards were for sale. And so they
Oh my
bought
God.
some and then said, oh, and they contracted the credit card company. And the credit card companies looked and saw, oh, there's a bunch of purchases from Target. And then they called Target and then figured it out from there. So this is like the FBI at work in 2013. So
Give me a second. I don't know why StreamYard consistently does this to me. Keep going. Let me make sure that you're on full screen. I'm gonna have to exit the studio, but it will not interrupt your thing that you got going on. I'm putting this back up on the stage, but I can't see anything. I don't understand what's going on here. Let me jump out and I'll come right back. You keep going.
okay.
Thank you. Sorry. I always
Oh,
love
should I
having you
keep
on here.
talking?
Yeah, just keep talking. Keep doing your thing. I'll be right back.
Okay, so I'm bringing up Target because you have the retail on one side, which is cash registers and payment data, because you left a door open, and then that's the same thing as the water plant, which is plant controllers and safe water being there. So Terry Childs, you can go look this up. You can think of this as a rogue network admin versus the city, or is he a hero whistler blower morality pay? But the machinery here is they set up an architecture that allowed one human to be the only recovery path, and it was already broken before all the drama of him saying, I'm not going to give you the password unless the mayor of San Francisco, which was Gavin Newsom, comes and talks to me. So this was about 2008, and the keys are concentrated in one skull. So it's not just whether Terry Childs goes off the reservation. What if he had gone on vacation, or he died, or he burned out, or quit? And so, tying back to water, if only Dave knows the master plant control password, you have folklore on how to run your plant. So really what you need two people to unlock emergency access, and passwords should be held by more than one party. And you have to count the humans who can recover the plant without a seance. And
That was funny. I'm back.
and you should show robust multi-party recovery and the child still owns the city, because he was sitting in jail in San Francisco until they were released, and I think he ended up sent to prison for being stubborn. And his justification was that he would release it to somebody who was a competent network engineer, and there weren't any. So
That's funny.
I almost sympathize with that, but not quite.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the main thing there is you don't need a villain.
Well, let me jump in there. Security doesn't need a villain. So that was one of my earlier questions that I posed. Y'all, please comment. So I hope y'all are still with us. I hope it didn't affect the stream, but I don't think that it did. So why are they so quick to want to blame a foreign entity? So, but keep going. But that would be my first question. Like, it seems like, boom, it was Iran. It was Iran. Like, what is that? So keep going. Security doesn't need a villain.
Yeah, well, so there's just like rogue, and I don't even know if Terry Childs is rogue. I mean, I kind of sympathize with I'm not going to release the password to somebody who's not a competent network engineer. And I kind of feel like what happened there is like he's working there, they're city employees, they're not the best hires, and it was Gavin Newsom, so probably DEI hires, and they're gonna screw up the network. And he just gets tired one day, and he's like, "Fuck it, I'm locking it down," and he locks the whole network down. And then he's like, "Okay, I will release the network when you hire competent people," and they're like, well, you can't do that. It's our network. And
Who's the
like,
committee that decides who's competent, though? I mean, I don't
I
know
don't
that.
know.
Well, let me not go down that rabbit hole. You've got a lot of information to cover here today. So let me not break your stride here. So, y'all, thank you for the comments. I've been pinning them as we go. Grumpy's a trooper. He knows how this rolls. So if you see any comment that strikes your fancy and you want to address it, let me know. So I'm just pinning as you go. So it's cool that you're not easily distracted by that. So let's pop you back up here and keep going, man.
Okay, so this is 2014. Heartbleed. Uh, this was all the rage in 2014. And people thought the internet's crypto was broken by geniuses. No. Open SSL, the open secure sockets layer, all the crypto that all the internet runs on, it never checked the size. And so it would just believe the size was real. And so it would end up reading random bits of memory. And if random bits of memory happened to have passwords in it, then that would happen. So it would leak. So yeah, so there's the claim. Attacker says, hey, send back 64K. And the lie is that only a few bytes were real. And the bug, the server never checked, is the size real? Like, I only got 5 bytes. Why did you want 64? And the leak was that whatever nearby would write out, keys, passwords, whatever happened to be in the memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Wow.
so, people think Heartbleed was elite crypto breaking. The machinery was the server believed a network number from the network. So this is why, common thing in cybersecurity is trust no one, you know.
Yeah.
So this is my
Trust no
favorite.
one. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
this is my favorite named one. So this was an OpenSSL, and Apple had this. So I'll read through the kind. And so there was a bunch of badly written code that said, if this, go to fail, if this, go to fail. And then you see that red line that says go to fail, and it always jumps. This is the
Yeah.
way C code is formatted. And that, because that's, even though that's indebted and it looks like it's a part of the if, it's not. It's living on its own, so it always jumps. And the
So
way
what does
that
that
particular,
mean?
and even though it said go to fail, it didn't actually report an error, which meant if you did your thing, it would accept any certificate as being valid, which ties into my making fun of PKI before. Is like, you could make a certificate that anything would think was so on. So anybody would think, oh, this is Amazon because their certificate matches Amazon. It's valid. And it's like, oops, that was a big deal. So it's
Mm.
the funny, and it just happened to be named go to fail, and um, that was the problem. So code is hard. Computers do exactly what you tell them to, and they don't think about it. And that's, kind of the basis of all things. So let's go into the classic thing. So stir copy. This is not wizardry to exploit this. It's just a bad contract. Anybody who learned how to program in C got used to using stir copy. And you say, oh, I'm going to copy this string over here. And what happens is the attackers are the people calling. And
Mm.
so they say, hey, go copy this 5K into this little 4K spot. And now we've written into memory, and we've written what we wanted into memory, which means we can execute arbitrary code on the system.
Can I just
So
say this is gonna sound so random, but I love your visual aids. I love the way you go through it. And what I love the most is the little water vial or whatever that is over there. Like that is so cool. So keep going. I'm listening. I am very much intrigued. Y'all, put your comments in the comment section. Do you live in Minnesota? Do you live in any state that you've heard that something like this has happened? And does all of this make sense? So keep going, Grumpy.
okay, so if you use Windows, behind the scenes using something called Active Directory. And the problem with Active Directory is it's the keys to the kingdom. If you can get into the Active Directory server, you own the company, because Active Directory determines what privileges everyone has, what they have access to, and things like that. And there have been bugs in Active Directory. People get into Active Directory and then they own the computer, then they own the whole company.
Mm.
And this is the company that made the secure hardware. That was our killer app, was telling people to lock down, helping people lock down Active Directory and things like that. And so we built in special things that would protect Active Directory specifically, and so on, and detect attacks and things like that. And when they started out the company, they built classic tech bro thing is to build cool tech and then not like think through of like delivering the last 5%. So that last 5% for us was Active Directory, where we would build the Active Directory and thing for them. People would say, "Oh, I want to protect Active Directory." We're like, "Great, here's your system that protects Active Directory," and so on. So,
God
yeah,
dang. So that to me, I look, my mind is so blown here. So let's keep going. So, I mean, when I
The
log on
Active
to my
Directory
computer,
is like the computer version of your driver's license, right? It says everything
uh,
that's on that, right? So yeah,
so all that vulnerable information.
yeah. So yeah, so if you can hack if you can phish the guy who's the Windows admin, so you bridge the computer into the plant. Now you're the all powerful Windows admin. Game over. You can control service events. You can control the help desk, and you can even reach down to the normal employee laptop. And so they just get everything there.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah. Now let's talk about public key infrastructure. So Active Directory is the key to the kingdom, but so is public key infrastructure. And that's all about you have a public key that everybody knows, and you have a private key that only you knows. And the way that's supposed to work is you can do things with the private key, and then people can use the public key to make sure it's you.
Oh, I
And
see.
there's this thing called this web of trust. But see, I was saying trust is bad. Well, if you can interject yourself into different levels of that web of trust, then you have everything below you in the trust. And there's been a whole things. So like I told you the anecdote about the IT guy being hired. Now those were all hardcore crypto guys. They knew what they were doing, and they still didn't build a revocation server. And once the certificates got out, the computers are going to do what the computers are going to do, right? They're told, "Hey, here's the magic key. Make a software license." And the computers say, "Okay," and then make a software license. Now, when you go to Starbucks and you buy an $8 coffee, that uses crypto. Now, banks do not have a human involved in that $8 transaction, right? That would not scale. As we say in the computer industry, it has to scale to lots of people. But if
Mm.
you're trying to transfer $8 billion, there's a human. And I know in movies they have this thing where there's the guy and he types in the computer and then $100 million goes into the terrorist bank account. That is not
Yeah.
reality, right? That's the
Right.
movie. They're like shortcutting that, right? And it probably takes like a couple of days and so on. So
Yeah.
there's like money involved.
Well,
So
and when it's international transactions and stuff like that, don't they have to go through like a conversion process and all of that? Yeah,
yeah,
I remember those movies. And I mean, I'm sure some of us believe that that's the way that it could happen, where the assassin is told a job to do, they do the job, and then boom, immediately they've got $1 million or whatever in your account. So let's keep rolling along. What's next?
yeah. So there's this guy and he had a Bitcoin wallet, and he had a hardware Bitcoin wallet, which means he never connected it to the internet. But the company that made the hardware had a bug. And the bug is that because Bitcoin keys are like a whole bunch of random numbers, or they would suck, right? Because English is kind of repetitive, right? There's consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel. So what it was is so the way that it works is you would type in like a passphrase and then it would generate this really long key from that. Well, they were supposed to use a hardware random number generator inside their magic hardware box, crypto box. And they had a bug where they weren't. So then it would fall back, and instead of saying, oh, error, can't work, it said, oh, I'll use this lame one. And that meant that instead of being really hard to hack, it was actually easy enough on a laptop to do. And so somebody went in and stole a bunch of private keys for people's Bitcoins. And so this guy had $1.6 million worth of Bitcoin stored in his magic little hardware box. He never had it in the internet, but your Bitcoin wallet is public. So he lost his private key, or his private key got discovered, and then people just took all the money out of his wallet without him ever being on the internet. So this is the other thing, you got to have humans in the loop to see what's going on. And,
Yeah.
computers are very obedient, but they do exactly what they're told. And humans can say, maybe we shouldn't be sending $1.6 million to Indonesia.
Right.
So yeah, the people think the math made us safe, but without kill switches and things like that, the stamp never dies as they're sewing. So yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is a personal vent. So the way the NSA works is they continually try to hack systems. And I have another slide for that. So there's like the offensive side of the NSA and there's no defensive side, which is you would think that the NSA, instead of saying, oh, we can hack Windows, would call up Microsoft and say, hey, we can hack you. You should go fix this. They do not do that. They put that in their little box and so on. And so the president and the members of the cabinet, they get special phones that have been locked down by the NSA that you and I do not get. And I just feel like we could have the same security outcomes for citizens as we do for the powers that be, because when Snowden leaked, what he found is they had a big pile of phone cracking software at the NSA, and what he did is he walked out with that and said, "Hey, we are not being good guys here. We should do better." And some of that then leaked out into the wild, and people knew it, and so on. So hostile networks are normal, and us having soft, easily breakable phones are a policy choice. Me going to Walmart and
sorry. If you need to go tend to your dog, I do have something I can play because my dog, I had to go step away while you were taking the stage. I was like, let me go get these dogs under control. So if you need to do anything, just let me know. I'm right here. I'm not leaving you again. And but now I don't hear anything. So keep going.
they mail it out again. They hear something, they get excited, and they run out. There are the wild turkeys that run around. So there's just a event.
Yeah,
anyway.
but I'm thinking about our viewers' ears too. So let's keep going.
Okay, let's see. So now I'm to wrap up a little bit. So we have one failure stack that's been going on for decades. Go back to that slide.
Sorry.
We got Target. They had no walls between the HVAC and the terminals. We had Childs in San Francisco. There was one key holder. We had Heartbleed, there was no size check and some code. We had GoToFail, which is like somebody didn't indent their code, didn't format their code properly. And then we have string copy, which is just a general thing in C programming that is kind of a bad pattern of you can't trust the code. No. And then we have Active Directory, which is one of these systems where, like, once you get that top level, you own everything else below you. Same thing with PKI. And then with NSA, we have 2 tiers where we have the government can have security, but the citizens can't. And that just annoys me.
Mm.
And so, what somebody is, so practical takeaways for everybody is, ask how they got in before we say, oh, it's Iran.
Thank you.
Build offices between your office and your plant. You don't need everyone in you don't need the same network for the printer as you do for the valves, right? You can have different networks and they can not
Okay.
cross.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Do an audit, count the number of humans who can recover the plant, can't be one. Okay. Any all-powerful Windows admin path is the real plant password. Like if somebody's the Windows admin, they have control of your entire company. PKI, build and test the kill switch before the stamp factory. There have been a bunch of leaks in the PKI stuff of people sending out the private keys when they weren't supposed to. And if you go and look in the browser stuff, there's a bunch of root certificates that are scheduled to be decommissioned because they're like known crappy certificate people.
Got it.
Bob's HTTPS cert and tackle.
Oh my God, you're hilarious.
Yeah. Treat your code kind of as the enemy. Make sure the checks fail. You can say the go-to fail's funny, but really there should have been test code that made sure that everything failed as it was supposed to. So I kind of sit above that, and I think you should have code, and the NSA should provide code of like, here is how you make sure that all your certs are valid. And then it catches all these fails. And this is where AI can help you. You say, AI, go and write code to test every possible set in this matrix. And the AI is bored. That's nothing else to do as long as you feed it electrons. And so it'll
Yeah.
say, oh, you want me to write 3,000 test cases? Yay! Okay. You should not have plant controllers with an internet address. This is stupid. And I think that hard phones default should be for citizens, hard settings on our computers and so on, not just titles, not
So
just
let,
people with fancy titles.
well, let me stop you right there because I was already looking ahead when you were going through stuff, and that one did catch my eye. No plant controllers with an internet address. What does that mean exactly? No plant controller with an internet
Okay,
address.
so you have your home Wi-Fi, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have a cable modem or something?
I do.
Okay, so your cable modem is technically a router because it goes and talks to the cable company and says, "Hi, I'm Regina Connell. Give me an internet address." And then when the internet comes in, they come into the cable modem, and then the cable modem does this translation between the outside world and your local network of your printer and your phone and your other phone and your computer, right? So so your cable modem is technically a router, right? Because it routes between the internet and the outside world and so on. Now, you can set up a network that does not connect to the internet and cannot reach the internet.
So are they saying that they should not have internet? I don't understand. They should not have an
Okay.
internet address. So if I have a router or whatever, but you can have this without having an internet address. Is that what you're saying? I'm sorry. I'm a little slow you know how slow I
Yes.
am,
Yeah,
Grumpy, when
you
it
can
comes to
set up
this.
your, well, that's okay. It's tech, right? You can
Yeah.
set up your network so that, like, these things are not allowed to connect to the internet,
Okay.
or the internet is not allowed to connect to those things. Those are technically called firewalls, but that's the
Mm-hmm.
deal, right? You set up those things and you say, but even better, you say you don't even allow that connection, right? If there's no connection, there's nothing to fail or then be not configured correct.
I understand
Somebody
that.
has to run a wire, then yeah. But I know it's inconvenient because then you can't from home say, oh, we need to open valves number 7. Beep, 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 beep. Okay, valve 7's open.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, let's keep going. So no plant controllers with an internet address. That makes so much logical sense. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And how many plant controllers do you believe have an internet address?
I don't know. There's this term that I make fun of called the Internet of Things. And that's this idea that everything has to have Wi-Fi. Like my stupid washing machine has Wi-Fi. And
What?
but my dishwasher does not. And I have a friend who his refrigerator has Wi-Fi.
I was
It's
about to
like,
ask about the refrigerator, and I like to be direct wired whenever possible, but keep going. So you don't have to have Wi Fi access for everything. We overuse it.
yeah. I mean, I think the point of having the Wi-Fi for my washing machine is it can tell me when it's done. But I use kitchen timers for that, and I set the kitchen
Hmm.
timer and then I carry it with me because it beeping my phone, I don't always notice, and so on, and then my clothes get wrinkled, so that's not a good outcome.
Oh, I
So
can't stand that. I have to get them fresh out of the dryer too. They gotta smooth them out. All right, y'all. Let's keep moving along. So we just did number 7, no plant controllers. So let's do a recap for those of you that are joining. What a non-captured adult does next. 1, ask how they got in before the nation state logo. He went through all that. Walks, office, plant, vendor access. It's is production access. Count humans who can recover the plant. Not just one. That's very important. Not just one. 4, all powerful Windows admin path equals real plant password. 5, PKI, it was pass key, what
public key infrastructure, right?
public
This
key
is really
infrastructure.
about the levels of trust. So
Mm,
you have like a top level. You have the magic signing crypto stuff, right? So you have the magic scary signing crypto math, and there's somebody at the top, and that's the top of the pyramid. And then they can sign for their layer below, and they can sign layer below, and they can sign layer below, and they can sign layer below. But the problem with that is now you're trusting the math and not the
right.
humans. And so, like, I can't remember when Stuxnet was, but the Israelis or somebody got into a company in Taiwan, and they got the certificates for that they use for signing their software, and they generated their own. Everybody knows this is Israelis. They generated their own software, and they sent it to Iran, who then installed it on their centrifuges, and then their centrifuges blew up.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy. Okay, so we talked about the public key. What was the I again? It just escaped me. The dogs are
Infrastructure.
just I was gonna say infrastructure. Okay, so 6, when checks fail, lockdown, lengths lie, networks are hostile. Then we just covered number 7, no plant controllers with an internet address. And then number 8, hit us with it, Grumpy.
Number 8 is the NSA should play defense as well as offense. And that is they're going to want more money. I get that, but not shouldn't be that much more money to like make phone calls and say, "Hey, Apple or Microsoft or really obscure person making an industrial controller somewhere in the Midwest. You
Mm-hmm.
have a vulnerability, and they should have like software that automatically detects vulnerabilities in people's software and says, "Hey, lock this down, lock this down, lock this down, lock this down." Right? That should just be like a get go. The national security administration should administer national security.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Or what else is it there for? All
Yeah.
right, so that's that on the water plants. So what in your profession? You have to give like a 60-second to 90-second, maybe take whatever time you want. But I want you to just kind of break it down, summarize. At the end of the day, you did make mention, hey, before we go blaming other countries and such, here's some things to consider. And I thought everything that you brought to the table was highly interesting, and it makes me feel better. Who wants to fearmonger and believe that other countries have such control over our country? And, from what, I'm seeing, reading from all places that I can, not just right leaning, left leaning, or all of that, is that, I mean, where would Iran even get the money, the capability to do something like that? So I'm not even focused on that. I'm more focused on your more logical explanation and things that can be done to make sure that this kind of stuff doesn't happen. And one of the biggest things is making sure that the infrastructure is updated, right? And then everything that Grumpy listed out. So take your time and summarize that. And then you spoke about trust, which is a huge thing. And that was mentioned a lot in one of the other articles that you wrote. So I didn't know if you wanted to get into that today too. We've got the time if you've got the time. So hit us with it, Grumpy. Go.
Okay, so humans. Okay, so the Bible says we are all sinners, and sin means to miss the bullseye, which means we are all imperfect. And there are sometimes complicated attacks that can compromise computer systems, but the most common attack is attacking the humans being lazy
Yes.
or not being experts, and all these examples are like simple mistakes, right? Oh, the HVAC guys need access to the corporate network. Okay, we'll set that up. And then the HVAC guy gets an email that says, blah, 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 click here. And he's like, oh, okay. And he clicks there. And then, oh,
He's screwed.
now anybody that goes into the HVAC network can now go over to the target network and then they can push whatever software they want to the credit card terminals. Oop,
Mm.
and it's Christmas. Whee! And and this is all being humans being humans. And in cybersecurity we talk about script kiddies, and that's people who aren't super smart, but they know how to go stuff on the internet, and they get a script and they can run it against a piece of software and use that to attack the computer. Right? It's already
Mm.
pre-built. They didn't have to come up with the virus. They didn't have to come up with the attack. They don't have to understand heartbeat. They don't have to understand go to fail. They just know if I run this program, it will go and compromise this system. And there's a lot more script kiddies than there are so on. So Iran doesn't necessarily need like a bunch of super high-tech hackers. They just need people who can go out on the dark web and find things and grab them.
Mm.
So they just need time and a little bit of funding, and they can do that. And maybe it's Iran, but I think what the president is saying is, the states have to be competent when they think about things like water and things like that. You got to pay the people who do that to go and do audits. And big picture, I think we should be getting the National Security Agency to be administrating national security and not just kind of helping the CIA.
Yeah, and let's talk about. I'm going to play one more time just the portion what President Trump said in response to the state saying that it's Minnesota. And any of you that have been following the news, and Grumpy right here, big dude on Department of Government efficiency, combating fraud, all of that. If you've watched our previous collaboration content, you'll see that fraud is like a personal insult to his motherboard. Don't do it. He will find you. So let's quickly review what the president said, and what Grumpy had addressed as far as, and this is what gets me, it doesn't matter if I try not to make it personal because I don't know these people personally, right? I don't know Obama personally. And I have been guilty of letting media influence me and my thoughts. Well, if they're saying it, it must be true, right? Because there was a time, well, has media ever been, trustworthy? I don't know. But I know my father did trust Walter Cronkite. And I don't think there was ever another news anchor that he trusted besides Walter Cronkite. But anyway, I said all that to say, so I think we have to consider things, I mean, I'll listen to you, I'll think about it. And nowadays, it seems anything that comes off of what's supposed to be serious networks, and all of them are guilty of it. Even the Fox is guilty of it. I've seen a couple things they've done that I'm like, what? What are you doing? So let's see what President Trump said about it one more time. And then I'm ready to transition into anything you want to talk about next. We had talked about you bringing up that other thing. It was a great article, by the way. I thought it was fantastic. I think I had a couple friends read it. So, but it's been a while, so I now have to refresh my memory. But let's go and see what President Trump said about all this, and then we'll jump into the next topic. And I do want to do a huge quick shout out. See if I can get my stuff together here. This is really just, I don't even understand why StreamYard is messing with my life today. It's the screen layout they keep messing up for some whatever reason. All right, so we're going to President Trump. Boom, boom, boom. Sorry, y'all. Oh, I was right there too. Okay, here we go.
Well, I think I blame it on Minnesota because they're grossly incompetent. They like to say, oh, it was Iran. Iran should be so lucky. Iran's got bigger problems than worrying about Minnesota.
Governor Tim Walz responded to the president's comments on X, saying Trump knows exactly who is responsible for this attack and knows that other states were hit too. This is what modern warfare
Whenever I
looks
see
like.
Tim
And what a
Walz,
wild
I think he should
accusation from
have a clown noise. Yeah, he's just trying to make it about Iran, right? He knows people aren't sure about the Iran more right now, and so he's like, "I'm gonna pull on Iran," because they should just put a clown nose on him.
But the
And
worst part about it is they were the ones that were like, "Oh, President Trump's attacking Iran," right? And now they're blaming Iran. I mean, make up your mind, right? What? This is crazy. This is insanity. All right, y'all. So I did want to make one announcement, and I hope you guys go over and check them out. So, I should have been better at this. I'll get fired for it. But anyway, y'all, if you have not heard of the grand jury on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Time, this is the channel of the grand jury, Joe Lanou. And look, the subscribership is going up steadily. We need those watch time hours. So y'all, please jump in and join the grand jury. If you don't know what the grand jury is, stand by. I'm about to show you. And then Grumpy, that'll give you a little bit of a little tiny break. If you want to take one, and then we'll jump into the next topic.
yeah, and by the way, the grand jury is really fun. Everybody should do it.
Thank you for that side note. I'm going to get you on full screen saying that too. All right, y'all, here we go.
Get any money from Costello?
No.
So you're also known as Duck Torella?
Every Friday night, 9 p.m.
I
Eastern.
refuse to answer on the grounds of mandatory.
Got it?
Five new jurors. Review. Police use of force. Watch them deliberate.
Get any money from
They
Iran?
decide. Reasonable or
Money
not.
from any of those fellas.
None of those
None of
fellas.
those fellas.
How will they judge? The grand
I don't
jury.
even speak to the. I mean, I met that Charlie once or twice. I don't even talk to him.
You don't like him?
No.
Follow, subscribe, and
An
comment.
incarcerated individual's use of institutional telephones constitutes consent, and your calls may be provided to law enforcement agencies. Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
All right, that is that Grumpy. Now, say that one more time, what you said right before I played the clip, the trailer. How much
Everyone
fun you
should
had?
watch a few grand jury episodes, so you know what's going on, and they should even participate in the grand jury because he tries to get 5 new jurors every week, so that they're a random sample of the populace, just like a grand jury works, and it's lots of fun to do, and you will learn a lot. Things I've learned recently is that tasers don't work. There's something called the 21-foot rule, which is if somebody is within 21 feet of you with a knife and you have a gun, they're going to kill you before you can shoot them. And tasers generally work in about an 18-foot radius. You can get ones now that work 45 feet, but they're tricky to use. And so people are like, oh, why didn't you just tase that guy? That's not how it works. And they have these cop-involved shootings, and all the time when I was on grand jury, the cop is like, drop the weapon, drop the weapon, drop the weapon, drop the weapon, I'm going to shoot you, drop the weapon, I'm going to shoot you. Okay, bang. And then the guy has to go to the grand jury, and the grand jury says, oh yeah, that guy. Because what happens is people are altered and they're not thinking clearly, and they have a weapon that they just used to stab their girlfriend, and they're coming towards the cops, and they want to explain. And there were two. The one I did last Friday. One was there's a cop, and he's there to back up another guy that have like robbed a bank or something. I can't remember. They didn't say. And then he has to dodge the wreck, and he dodges the wreck, and there's a guy, and he's all in black in the middle of the road, and the cop hits him, and he goes flying like half-mile. And the cop, he's broken his hand from the airbag, and he's running to go help the guy. And the guy, the guy dies. And they're like,
Well,
is this a
just
bill or
tell
not?
them.
And I'm like, well, poor
Just tell
guy.
them. Just tell them what your vote was. Don't tell them what everybody else's vote was, if you remember, because there's fresh new content.
I was no bill on that because,
Yeah.
so here's the funny thing. I hit a deer once because there were 2 deer. So I dodged the first deer, and then the second deer is standing in the middle of the road after I dodged the first deer. And then Joe was like, well, are you like giving this guy saying no bill because you hit a deer? And I'm like, no, I'm giving this guy no bill because there's always idiots wandering in the road in dark clothes at night, and I'm afraid I'm going to hit one someday. Don't rob a bank and then be standing in the middle of the road afterwards going.
Did you see the video I did
Cop
on
might
the?
hit you.
Did you see that? Is hilarious. Did you? Because this just reminded me. Did you see the video I did on the guy that was robbing the Verizon wireless store? And while he was in commission of that crime, his truck was stolen. So he calls 911. Wait, let me show everybody that real quick so they can go over and check it out if y'all want. So yeah, the guy, he calls 911, and they get there, and then of course police, because it was the same officers responding to his 911 call as had responded to the Verizon wireless break-in. And the guy, I mean, he broke windows, he had blood on his hand. It was very obvious that he had committed this crime, but it's let me put it up here real quick. So, oh, that's yours. Wait 1 second. I'm still trying to get better at. Okay, so if you guys could see this bad decisions on the far right, karaoke, crime, and instant karma. So, and then there was another story that I covered here out of West Virginia. Let me pull this off the stage so it'll give us back to where we were. Hopefully, I don't know why look. Here we go. There. Thank God. So anyway, and then there's a Mountain State songbird that likes to drink a few pilsners and belt out some classic rock karaoke on her front porch, and it's offending her neighbors. And they're actually saying that it could possibly be bringing down the property value in the area. But she says, by golly, it's her porch. She'll do whatever the hell she wants to. It's her constitutional right. So I'm like, okay. But anyway, so we covered all that. Y'all be sure to go check out the grand jury, and be sure to check out, of course, Grumpy Tech Bro, his account, because he releases amazing articles. So what's next on the chopping block today?
Okay, do you want to talk about trust in elections?
Yes, since we talked about trust today, I think it would be fantastic. So, did you have any hold on a second. Sorry, did you have any visual aids that you wanted to bring up? I'm gonna kick the rest of this stuff from the studio
No,
if
I'm
you
just
don't
going
mind.
to talk about it conceptually.
Yeah, can I put you full screen and you hit it and coming back or
I'll just talk, I guess. But now, before we get into it, now we could be committing a felony, specifically 18 U.S. Code 371, conspiracy to commit an offense against the United States or to defraud the United States, and your own state and local equivalents. Are you okay with talking about ways that we could hack mail-in ballots?
Well, let's think about that before I say yes, since most people that know me know that I'm already a felon and I am a law abiding citizen. So, when you say it could possibly, we're talking about it. So, are we having an open dialogue? Are you doing a presentation? This is in theory, y'all. All of this is for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes, and mainly the informational. So, we will say, do not try this at home. We are not advocating for this, are we?
No, and I will be a little bit vague, but I, as a cybersecurity person, am identifying obvious problems with mail-in ballots.
There we go. I love it. All right. Hit the ground running, Grumpy. We're listening.
Okay, now I already have an article on X about this, and this covers the one that Trump published a couple Thursdays ago, where they said, hey, the election databases are not secure. And we just talked about how computers aren't secure and Active Directory and all that. So that all ties into that, right? So easily you could go in. And there are, just off the top of my head, there's a whole bunch of steps in the mail-in ballot process that are vulnerable. So the first step is the voter has to trust that they're properly registered, right?
Mm-hmm.
The voter has to trust the ballot will arrive on time. The county has to trust that the ballot was filled out without coercion and wasn't sold or handed off. The voter has to trust the ballot will actually be delivered to the election office.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to trust that the elections office will count it. And the elections office has to trust its machines are counting correctly, right? So let's talk about
Can I just say
trusting.
that's a lot of trust right there. Okay. Let me just say that's a lot of trust. So
Yeah. Now,
continue.
and trust is a bug, right? If you're a cybersecurity guy, one of my themes is trust is a bug. You got to like work to get that trust out. So you have to trust that the ballot will arrive on time. Well, what if your postman doesn't feel like delivering your ballots? What if your postman says, you know, I don't think people in this neighborhood should be voting.
Ooh.
So I'm just going to throw away some of those ballots on the way back to the post office. And I'll just, whenever I see one in the mailbox, I'll just like set it aside and so on. And, you know, you think that's not a big deal or it'd be random. Well, people kind of live near other people like them. And so it'd be really easy to say, oh, people in the Hispanic neighborhood don't get to vote, according to me.
Mm.
Pretty easy, right?
Yep.
And so you have to trust that. And then people are like, well, you could go to the Dropbox. And I thought about doing that because, you know, I'm not big on trust. And I'm like, oh, I could go to the Dropbox. But you know what happens with the Dropbox? You got a Dropbox. I know where my Dropbox is. It's near the Lively Swim Center. And I could have driven by there. But, you know, if we're already attacking a neighborhood, you go to your neighborhood Dropbox and you throw some gasoline in there and let match. And then those ballots went away. And I
Mm.
know that's even happened. There have been happens of like people have reported in the news about like Dropboxes getting firebombed.
Yeah, I was kind of doing a visual aid of your article as you're talking about certain parts of it. So keep going.
Yeah. So the county has to trust that the ballot was filled out without coercion and wasn't sold or handed off. Now, there were a couple of instances in the LA mayoral election where somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I sold my ballot for $5."
Oh my
Um,
God.
if you're a Muslim man and you don't allow your wife out of the house, do you get to vote for her? Did we just give all Muslims double votes? Whee! Like Muslim women
Yeah.
would never be able to vote themselves out of Sharia. Think about that.
Yeah.
Okay. You, as the voter, have to trust the ballot will actually be delivered to the elections office. I think we already talked about that relating to the ballot arriving on time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you, as the voter, has to trust the election office will count it. They could decide not to count ballots for some reason from certain neighborhoods or so on. When I was processing the mail-in ballots in California, all of the Vietnamese ballots were marked for Trump. And they all came in, a lot of them came in envelopes with Vietnamese on the outside, which means you could easily pull out all the bilingual ballots and say, oh, we're not counting those.
Mm. I do want to show this up on the screen. I do want to read it really quick because this plays into the cybersecurity. So, y'all, again, if you haven't checked out Grumpy on the X platform, he is at Grumpy Tech Bro. And you can see his handle up on the screen beneath his name. But this is a portion of it. When cybersecurity people say, is it showing up on the screen, first of all? Yes, it is. Okay.
Yep.
When cybersecurity people say attack, we do not mean a criminal plot. We mean a systematic way of looking for places where a system trusts something it should not. An attack, and we're using air quotes here, he's got it in quotes, is just the question. If I were going to break this, where would I start? It is a diagnostic method, not a to-do list. Same thing in chess and Go. You look at the board and ask where you are weak and where your opponent is weak. So playing into the elections that you're talking about, there's a lot of trust that's going on. When you brought up the mailman, I have a perfect story. Rusty told me I should do some content. I was like, I don't want to do content on my local people around me and put them out there like that. But when you start acting and doing a bunch of foolery, this is my only outlet. So I'm going to take it. So anyway, the mailman, now our dog, you know the story of our dog and the Facebook viral post and all that. So we finally got it worked out. Rusty did talk to the girl's father. We're all good. Everybody's good. But the mailman was not wanting to deliver the mail. And it's like I said, I don't mind going to the post office every single day. It's just my neighbors that suffer for it. So, why isn't he delivering the mail? Now, he did make mention that, I think the dog's maybe been out in 3 years, 10 times, maybe, while he's delivered the mail. And the last time he said his tires were bald. And we touched on this when we had the trucker, what's his name? Super Trucker on the last show we did.
Yep.
And yeah, so update on this. But last time it was the stolen money, Rosie's stolen birthday money. But this time, he went and told his supervisor that our dog tried to attack him, that he was in fear for our dog, that our dog jumped up on him when he had to get out and do something with the mailbox. And we knew that that was not true. And so we came to a solution, and the lady said, well, are you okay with him documenting it if the dog happens to get out or whatever? But 2 times he turned away. It was clear I had Moose on a leash. I know when he comes. So either I have the dog in the house or I try to put him on a leash. It got crazy. So finally, our mail is being delivered again. More importantly, our neighbor's mail is being delivered again. So you have to trust that the ballots are getting from wherever to your mailbox, then from your mailbox when you flip that flag up, unless you're delivering it yourself to the wherever. You have to trust that it's going to get there. And then you have to, what else do we have to trust? Do they run it through an electronic system? Do people manually count it? We have to make sure it gets to the election poll station to be counted, all of that. So there is a lot of trust that goes into it.
Yeah. And then, and if it's the same as the plant, right? I mean, if you have your election, if you have your counting computers, which presumably there's a computer sitting on the internet,
some counties there aren't.
Somebody
Grumpy.
owns it, right? And now it's on the internet. And then when we built I think I talk about this in the article, but when we built the secure computers at Skyport, they didn't have any ports. because if you had a port, then it can be compromised.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't trust that the same people who put the controllers for the sewage plant on the internet have not screwed up the election computers because they're the same county, right?
So is this the part when I worked at the cybersecurity company, we built secure computers. You know what they didn't have? Ports. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep, they didn't have ports. In fact, they didn't even have the chips for the ports. They would like make them without the so they couldn't you couldn't what they had to do is for debugging they had two computers and they had hand soldered the chips onto the motherboard so that like you could use USB or something. And they kept those two locked away, and only the hardware guys knew where the keys were for that.
Got it. Well, I think guys being plural is the operative word, because you said not one guy, make sure that more than one has those capabilities. So let's keep going with the election thing and a lot of trust. We have to have a lot of trust. And I love the way that you open the article because you know me, I'm a renegade. I kept reading. He does say in the article, stop right here. You could possibly be committing a felony, breaking the law, whatever, just by reading this article. So I thought that was fantastic and funny. So I just want to know how many lawbreakers we got out there. So keep going, Grumpy. We're listening.
Okay, and the elections office, they have to trust that their machines are counting correctly, which, if they put them in the internet, just assume not. And cybersecurity, we kind of assume everything is broken at each part. And so then we think, okay, this is broken and this is broken. And the media wants to say, oh, there's no widespread ballots and all that. That's just crap. There are 3,000. What's the number? I got to scroll back.
You're good. Are you on the same article?
Yeah, I'm scrolling back because I don't remember the number. There are 3,140 counties in the United States, and each of them have their own election department, and that's interpreting 51 different sets of election laws, and they all had their own procurement, and so they're all running slightly different elections. And I cannot believe that each one of those counties has really locked down their cybersecurity. I just don't believe that, and I never will.
Right. Yeah.
Now, the
So
system I like for elections right now that seems best to me is North Dakota. They don't even require you to register. You just have to show up at your polling place with the photo ID, and they will get your vote in there and counted. And that skips the whole mail-in ballot thing. You can just go by and vote. That's now how I think we should do elections, is we should just show up with a photo ID and you're done.
yeah. So I do want you to touch on, because it seemed like there were 4 pillars, but you didn't reference them as pillars. You referenced them as sacred cows. So do you want to hit those points? The sacred cow, number
Yeah.
1, number
Okay.
2,
Let's
and
talk
number
about
3, number 4?
the sacred cows. So, first sacred cow is idiots saying U.S. elections are the most secure they've ever been. No, they're the most gaslit they've ever been. When I read these corporate mission statements, that's always what they're not doing. If they say we're not evil, they're evil, right?
Yeah.
If they were good, they wouldn't have to say they were good because everybody would know that, right? So them saying our elections are secure means they're not secure. And that's just, me being 59. So then they say there's no widespread problem. Well, I don't care if there's a widespread problem. I'm a cybersecurity guy. So if I see a seesaw with 200-pound person on one side and a 200-pound person on the other, it only needs a feather on one side to make that side go down, right? And our elections are like way too balanced. We're like 50-50 as a country. And that's why we keep talking about swing states, right? Because the blue states all vote one way, the red states all vote for other, and there's a bunch of purple states that are splitting the difference, that are deciding everything. And that's where everybody goes and campaigns the hardest, is in those swing states. So
Yeah.
that means that one vote matters, right? One vote matters. I don't want to hear it's not widespread or it wouldn't affect the election. The election should be locked down. I believe that this is consent to the governed, And I do not consent as long as our elections are controlled by mail-in ballots, because I know too much about cybersecurity to believe any of this shit.
So let's recap the sacred cow. Number one, U.S. elections are the most secure they've ever been. So that's what they would lead us to believe. He went into all of the statistics and all of that. But I did want to, because we're doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down, whatever you want to call it. So this is the part that stood out. Sacred cow. Number one, too much of our elections are built on trust. To a cybersecurity person, trust is a bug. It should be a bug for you too. You shouldn't have to worry about how secure our elections are. The fact that you're getting this reassurance is a huge red flag. I mean, you're not, I mean, So, did you have anything else you wanted to say on Sacred Cow number one before we jump into number two? I love the way you did the Sacred Cow thing.
No, we're good. Yeah, let's jump out to widespread. I think I just talked about widespread. It's not about
It's okay.
widespread, right? Our standard is 50% plus one, and that means one vote matters.
Yep.
And there have been elections that have been decided by a few hundred votes. So, and a few hundred votes, and then have sketchy registration and things like that. So, I do not think. I don't want to hear this widespread bullshit. The minute I hear widespread, it tells me somebody's reading a talking point that they don't understand, and I should ignore everything else they say after that. Because the minute they're saying widespread, they don't understand a seesaw.
Yeah. Well, thank you for going over that again, because I am going to edit some of this. So I wanted to be able to get you clearly going through and like hitting us with those one line zingers that you're so famous for. So on to Sacred Cow number three, y'all. The computers are securable. And yes, we have touched on this several times. He did go through where he worked. We just talked about this too, where he worked at the cybersecurity company. So, what would be the biggest one liner, two liner takeaway that you would say for Sacred Cow number three? So people can remember, people like, little simple things they can
Secure
remember.
computers don't have ports, because ports are atoms, and you can't change the atoms remotely. So one of the things they detailed in the document dump was that Dominion sold computers to Venezuela, and the computers had modems in them, but the modems were software disabled. Well, that meant they could turn them on, and there would be no record. And so I don't want to see a election computer that has a port. Or if it does have a port, I want it to be set up under very specific guidelines of like, it can only do certain things and so
Right.
on. And there can't be like, oh, you just shove in this disk drive and then you get different new software,
Yeah. So that's, oh my gosh, to me, that'd be like one of the biggest things right there. So, man, and I would have never thought of any of this stuff. So let's go to Sacred Cow number four. And this was a huge thing too. Public key infrastructure protects you.
Yeah. So
As you
another way to
direct.
put this is like, crypto is not magic. It seems like magic, scary math that nobody understands. And even as a cybersecurity person, I don't really understand the crypto, right? And I know how it works, but I don't have to do the math. I just have to like use code that uses the math. But what I also do is I have a high level of paranoia. So I know, oh, having the computer blindly do things without a human involved is maybe not a good idea, because that's just a key. I don't give keys to my house to random strangers.
Right. Exactly.
And I do have like a key code lock on my house, but only like the lady who takes care of the dog knows the number, and she forgets it every time. I have to tell it to her again. And so if that number got out, I would have to change it. But somebody could
Okay.
get
Let
into
me
my
ask
house,
you.
the magic number, same thing.
Since we're talking about door locks, right? I have to ask you this, and as soon as we wrap up with this a whole election thing, this article, I let y'all go back and read it. Make sure you read it, and here you're getting the full breakdown of it, and it does play into the water cyber attack, whatever you want to call it. So there's some naughty Airbnb hosts out there, but let me ask you, how would you feel about staying in an Airbnb if you were to stay in an Airbnb, right? If they have an app where they can control locking and unlocking the door like all the time, why wouldn't they just have like a lockbox and just change the code on that? I don't know how comfortable I would feel staying in an Airbnb where they have the capability to lock and unlock the front door while I'm staying there.
Well,
I mean, they do have backup keys, I guess
why
hosts
is it better
do.
with a physical key? I mean, it's the same thing, right? I mean,
True.
right, whether you're punching in a number or using a physical key, somebody else could have gotten that key and taken it to a locksmith and gotten a copy, right?
Mhm.
Especially if it doesn't say do not copy on it, then they could do that.
What about cameras inside the Airbnb home?
I kind of think that's probably standard because an Airbnb home, especially if it's just a rental, they need to be able to look at it and see what's going on. It's whether they're recording it and streaming it and whether they're in the bedrooms or not, I would imagine. Like if you have an Airbnb home and it has a TV and your Airbnb home gets broken into while you're not there, maybe you want pictures of the perpetrators, right? I don't know.
Well, they have outside cameras. I mean, is that not sufficient? So, and then people are saying that that type of behavior, and there's much more to that. I'm doing a video on it. I just thought I would ask Grumpy while we're on here real quick before we wrap up. But so apparently they I think that hotels have cameras too. Like, don't they? When you think, I mean,
Well, the hotels are more likely to obey all the laws and know what the laws are. So the hotels would have cameras like in the hallways and at reception and in common areas, but they would
mm-hmm.
not have them in your room, right? They'd be
Right.
limited. And the hotels are
Yeah.
just going to eat. If a TV gets stolen, they'll just eat it. They'll be like, oh, well, we lost the TV, right? And if they can, they go back and bill the last person there. And maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I know that when my wife worked at the front desk of a hotel, people would take towels and stuff. And I was like, oh, well, we lost the towel.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Yeah.
hotels don't pay that much for the towels. So they're like,
Right. Well, what else we got, Grumpy? Did we even finish with that? I think we did. The four things, and then how to think like a cybersecurity geek. That was really good. Trust me, bro. Humans suck. Yep.
yep.
Yeah, you covered all of this actually.
Yeah. Well, it's the same problems everywhere, whether it's boating or whether it's, the valve that controls that keeps the sewage out of the water, it's all the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I've got. You got anything else, Grumpy Tech Bro? Grumpier? Are you still grumpier on your title? What do they call that? Your account name and then your account handle. Let me show people this awesome because I love the header you did. Right there. Yep, you're still grumpier. I love it. There you are. Boom. Y'all go check out Grumpy Tech Bro. He's grumpier than ever. And I love the way you're looking with the magnifying glass into the ballot box. Trust is a bug. Why cybersecurity people side eye mail in voting. So, y'all, you've been warned. I like the way you warn people before they move further. It's like that disclaimer move forward at your own risk. Well, thank you for joining us today. Tell them the last thing, tell them what you're working on, and you're going to be the 1 millionth or 1 billionth. Elon is the 1 billionth, and you're,
Oh, my personal goal is to find $1 billion worth of fraud. Because and that's a milli Elon, because he wanted to find 1 trillion. He wasn't successful, though he was successful at other things. But so I may not get to 1 billion. But if I get to 300 million, I'll be happy. That is my personal goal, is to try to find $1 billion worth of fraud. The thing I've been doing lately is geolocating things. So that means finding the lat and longitude of an address. And there's various government databases, and I'm pulling them all into one master database and then finding all the addresses. And then once I have the lat and long, I can round that down to like the nearest 35 feet, which is essentially one building. And that takes all the suites and floors and so on and compresses it down to like this address is all the same. And it also catches the misspellings. So like there's trucking companies where there's like 600 trucking companies registered to this one little like building in this one town, and things like that. And you're like, are there really 600 trucking companies there? And are you really doing all the things you need to do as a trucking company to make sure that like people aren't, stoned people aren't driving 80,000 pound vehicles at 80 miles an hour down the nation's highways?
I'm so sorry I did that. I did not mean to do that. Yes, I am with you. And I was pulling this up because y'all, what he's talking about, the tools that he builds and stuff like that. So we did suspension, SCOTUS, and satire, and that's when he talked about his DOT tool, which is what he was referencing on what he's working on now. And then we covered the article with the ballot and all of that stuff. I mean, it is always a joy to have you on here, Grumpy. You are always just like a plethora of knowledge, and it really does help me separate the noise from what's actually going on. And is this logical? Is it not logical? Before we go jumping on to something that it may be something else, these are things that we should consider. So that's all I've got. Grumpy, I want to thank you for coming on. And there was something else I was going to say, and I can't remember. Crap, it was something about.
I have an article called Grumpy, the home version. And if you want, if you have access to grok.com, and if you don't, you should, you can do that, follow those steps, and then you can get a Grumpy take on anything you want.
Nice. I will definitely be checking that out as soon as I get off of here. Well, you guys, happy trails to all of you. I hope you have a great Monday. And I do want to do a huge special thank you, Grumpy, I was like, we got to talk about this. And so he was so accommodating, and especially for being a last minute juror on the grand jury last Friday night. I called him up. He was like, well, what time are we going live? I was like, 10 minutes. He was like, oh, okay. And man, you showed up and showed out. So we couldn't be more grateful. All right, you guys, that's all we've got today. Has been America's water systems under attack. What? So we had Grumpy with us, and y'all, we will catch you on the flip flop. Be sure to go check out Grumpy and go check out our YouTube channel. We're growing, and we couldn't thank you more. We definitely couldn't do it without you. All right, see you on the flip flop.
She walks in, coffee in hand, name badge swinging like a brand, wild and wired on her sleeve. Every whisper she retrieves. She's got tabs open in her mind, deadlines racing double time. Blink once, whole story's gone. She's 3 plot twists ahead, move on. Regina knows the news, Regina knows the gossip. Say it to a friend, she already clocked it. One hell of an opinion, better pick your side. Regina runs the room for Wild and Wild.